Bertha Harvey and her sister, Charlene, have been wonderful, wonderful friends for years and years. Their mother, Esther, wove rugs for my father for years and years, and she has Alzheimer's now. For the last 20 years, Bertha has been a chef down at the Navajo Nation Inn in Window Rock, Arizona. And her sister, Charlene, has been going to school part-time at the University of New Mexico Extension in Gallup. Well, they haven't been weaving a lot of rugs, but their mom, Esther, did. Well, Esther has developed Alzheimer's now, and so it's a little bit difficult for her to continue to weave. You know, her skills declined, and Bertha had to quit her job and stay home with Esther. Charlene ended up graduating from college, went back to work, and now she has a little bit more time, so they've started weaving again. And we thought, you know, what sort of thing would Bertha and Esther like to weave? Because we never dictate to a weaver what they should weave. That should be their art. But an interesting thing came about because I do a lot of talks about Navajo weaving and its history. And as you talk about the history of Navajo weaving, one of the things you want to talk about is the development of the early blankets. Well, back during the early part of Navajo weavings, and I'm talking about the 1850s to 1840s, 1860s, when these wearing blankets were done, they were fairly common. Well, today they're not easy to come by. And a good first phase Navajo blanket can run up to $1 million. So I don't have one of those to show people when I'm talking about the history of Navajo weaving. So what we did is we went to Bertha and her sister Charlene, and we said, if we were to find the materials that were used in those original Navajo weavings, would you be able to recreate them in the designs? And they were delighted to do it. This is a first phase blanket, and this piece is actually woven with churro wool, which is the type of wool that the Spanish brought in 1540, which was the basis of the Navajo weaving industry. It's done with indigo dye, which is the blue, and the browns and the whites are just the natural wool colors. So this is what a first phase blanket would have looked like when it was brand new. It has the same materials and the same yarns that you'd find in a piece woven in the 1840s. So this was exciting to Bertha and Charlene because here we are creating something that is exactly like her ancestors did 150 years ago. What fun. So that was an exciting thing. Well, they finished that weaving and moved on to the next level in Navajo blankets. The second phase Navajo blanket tended to have more geometric patterns and created squares in different parts of the piece. And this required a red wool. Now, the Navajos in the old days did not have access to commercial dyes. So what they would do is take the blankets that were given to them by the American soldiers or the traders that were dyed red, and they would take those apart, respin that yarn, which is the red, and the dyes were made out of cochineal, which was a beetle that was crushed and boiled. So it's basically beetle juice. And then they would respin that yarn and make the red color that they really had no access to otherwise. So we ended up with a movement to the second phase blanket. And again, this got Bertha and Charlene really excited. They began to look at museums and books that feature old Navajo weavings, and it was an exciting new trip for them. It's also unusual because very seldom do two weavers weave together on the same loom. But these girls are so good and have worked together so many years and learned from the same teacher, their mom, that they're able to create these beautiful pieces, and you can't tell where one weaver quit and the other one started.